Hi, everyone. Welcome to the PoliticAL update with me, Alexandra Acker-Lyons. I pay attention to the political news so you don't have to. This is the advice I give my millionaire clients, and you get it for free. It is Friday, June 19th. Happy Juneteenth. Um, I spent the morning watching the Obama Presidential Center opening ceremonies. I'm still very emotional from watching it. The performances were incredible. Like I started crying as soon as Jennifer Hudson hit her first note. Um, but Michelle Obama's speech, take the time to go watch it. You can see I'm still so emotional about it. I never drank the Obama Kool-Aid. I was never a hopey changey person. I was like Hillary to the end, and I now absolutely love Obama. I love everything that they accomplished, but um uh listening to Michelle's speech where she talks about hope as a choice, whew, really struck a chord and makes you remember why we do this work and makes me remember what we can be and what we can aspire to be. And she just, in the classiest Michelle Obama way, um, and without saying his name or even making a direct allusion to him, eviscerates Trump and everything he believes and everything he's trying to do. Um, and it did give me so much hope. Um, and God, we need that right now. Um, I'm also really proud. A original National Voter Registration Day poster of mine that I had kept is in the Obama Center archives. It's not on display, but several years ago, Matt Singer, the founder of National Voter Registration Day and who was running the Alliance for Youth Action when they launched that, texted me and said, "Hey, do you happen to have one of those posters?" Because he knew that I'm a hoarder, I keep everything, but kept a bunch of campaign posters and had them up in my old office in California. So the Obama Library wanted it because he tweeted about National Voter Registration Day, and it was a really big deal. So I had been invited to go see the Presidential Center before it opened and wasn't able to make it work, but I'm really excited to go tour the museum. Also, last night I hosted an event for Phil Weiser, who's running for governor here in Colorado. That primary is coming up on the 30th, and we were in a Mexican brewery and bar and didn't know when we planned it that it was going to be a Mexico World Cup soccer game. And so we had our little corner, and then it was just filled to the brim with Mexico fans. And then two guys who were South Korean and were rooting for South Korea and were very brave to go to a Mexican bar when South Korea was playing Mexico. And they just adopted these two guys and they were ribbing them, but everyone was just having so much fun. And just again, that community aspect, that's what's going to bring us back from all of this. And just having moments in time with neighbors who you may not even know. It's really important. So, heading into July 4th and the 250th and all these other moments when we can celebrate, it's worth celebrating, even when it's hard. Okay. Also this morning, we got the great news that Hannah Pingree is going to be the Democratic nominee for governor in Maine. Maine has ranked choice voting. It took them several weeks to count all those ballots, and that's okay. And yet another example of ranked choice voting helping female candidates. Excuse me. Hannah and Shanna Bellows were not polling at the top in first choice, but they were very consistently the second and third choices, kind of going back and forth. And Hannah was able to pull off that win and is the heavy favorite going into November and will just be a phenomenal governor. So yay. Also, runoffs in Georgia. Penny Brown Reynolds won the runoff to be the Secretary of State nominee in Georgia, making it 3 Black women, along with Tanya Miller for Attorney General and Keisha Lance Bottoms for governor, running for the constitutional offices in Georgia, which is a really big deal. We have never elected a Black woman governor, and so Keisha Lance Bottoms would make history, and Rick Jackson kind of unexpectedly won the runoff to be the Republican nominee. He spent millions and millions of his own money. He will continue to spend millions and millions of his own money, so that will be a very expensive race. And we got MAGA Mike Collins versus Sean Ossoff, which I like. I like having a congressman with a record instead of like random football guy. We have a lot of primaries coming up next week in New York. It'll be a lot of Dem on Dem in safe seat races. There's going to be a lot of like stories about the ideological divides coming out of those races, in part because Mandami and AOC and others have made a bunch of endorsements in these races, but some of them are not as clean, including a race where the AI industry is playing heavily. There's a wonderful new organization founded by 2 friends of mine called Guardrails PAC to help fight back against the AI industry and saying we need guardrails on all of these policies. So check them out. Also saw a poll in Maine that Graham Plattner is up 3 points even after all of the more recent kerfuffle. And Susan Collins was asked on camera this week if she regrets her vote for Kavanaugh, and she said she does not. So coming very soon, if not already, to ads all over Maine will be us holding her accountable for that vote. Also want to note that Electing Women Alliance is hosting a Zoom on June 24th for 6 amazing women who are running for Attorney General. Some incumbents, some open seats and challengers. And we have just seen the incredible importance of attorneys general in fighting back, in preserving our rights. So I will put the link to donate an RSVP in the notes. Join us if you can. Okay, in other political news, Georgia declined the summons to redistrict. They were brought back into special session. They will be back in special session again on Monday. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of arm twisting over the weekend. But basically, I think we're starting to see the backlash to not only the partisan gerrymandering, but the Calais decision, especially in a state like Georgia that understands more than most the history of the civil rights movement, the power of the Voting Rights Act, and so here's hoping that holds and Georgia does not redistrict going forward. The Cook Political Report moves 7 congressional seats towards Democrats, including some seats like North Carolina 11 that are kind of just starting to come onto the national radar. These are, I talked about this a couple weeks ago with my list of opportunity districts. These are seats that are currently rated as like solid Republican or likely Republican that are just continuing to move towards Dems, and that we have to be putting in play in order to take back the House and take it back by a real majority to allow us to govern going forward. Of course, the huge news this week was the Iran deal, which isn't really a deal. It's like talking about it. I think Kamala said it's concepts of a plan. So good. These people are idiots, and JD Vance being the face of this deal is really interesting when, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State should be the face of it. Donald Trump has said if it works, he'll take the credit, and if it goes south, he'll blame JD Vance. Great, wonderful position to be in. He's, as usual, saying the quiet part out loud. So we'll see like what actually comes from this, but Iran is still going to control the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to unfreeze their assets. And it looks like they got everything they wanted, and we got nothing. And Trump's calling it a win. Sure. Elon Musk became a trillionaire, at least on paper, this week. It's disgusting, and we need to have a conversation about wealth and greed in this country, because I just don't believe that most people think that this is a good thing. And it's one thing to want to aspire to be wealthy. It's one thing to want to aspire to be incredibly wealthy. And it's another thing to allow one person to accumulate that much wealth. It's just gross. 2028 has begun. Chris Van Hollen said he is kicking the tires on a presidential bid. I really like Senator Van Hollen. The joke is that every senator wakes up and looks in the mirror and sees a president. I think some of them will have to determine if they want to run for Senate leadership or run for president. I think Chris Van Hollen would also be a great majority leader or majority whip or whatever he wants to run for. We saw a ton of presidential aspirants at the Obama Center opening. Again, I hope that all these people take that moment and think really big, because that's what we're going to need to rebuild this country and rebuild this economy. And my shout out of the week goes to the New York Knicks. I am not a sports person, but in the mid-90s, I was a huge Knicks fan. I had a poster of John Starks on my wall. I had a big crush on him. And just, again, seeing the joy and seeing the community and seeing everyone come together for this historic win was really inspiring. So, yay, Knicks in 5. All right, have a great week. Thanks, everyone.